Greetings, y'all. Uncle Dave back again. I left New York today. Went to my safe haven out in the country, just in case something crazy goes down around the inauguration. Yep. I know I said I wasn't going to go until next week, but an opportunity presented itself, and here I am. So, I was driving out of town today listening to the news and a few things stuck out to me. First, Kamala Harris was talking about the peaceful transition of power and democracy. You know, I am so sick of Democrats talking about democracy. It kind of reminds me of that old Samuel Johnson quote about patriotism being the last refuge of a scoundrel. Except instead of patriotism, it's democracy. When they talk about democracy, I just tune it out. Even when conservative media starts playing some interview from some politician or even clips from The View, I just turn it off. Can't listen to the Democratic message anymore. Total burnout. Thank goodness for streaming music. Would have been a long, quiet ride today without it. Anyway, my argument is simple. To have a democracy, you need to have an informed electorate. The Democrats just parrot whatever information they're given by left-wing news sources. They don't think for themselves. If you ask questions, they immediately slap some label on you. No thought, they just react. It's like they cannot make a logical argument. My goodness, people, think for yourselves. I just don't get that. You know, I would respect a well-thought-out, reasoned argument. You might even get me to come to your side. Next, you also need rule of law. That law needs to treat everyone equally. People need to have faith and confidence they are going to be treated equally. Finally, you need people. That's easy. No people, no voters. No voters, no democracy. I can't think of any pro-human, pro-American policy in the Democratic agenda. Unless you count the illegal immigrants pouring into the country as pro-human. But even then they're preying on each other and American citizens. It's not sustainable. All right, second issue. The incoming president Donald Trump. Okay, lot of good ideas. Maybe too many for the time he has in office. Definitely too many to go into all of them here. Gotta give him points for being ambitious and getting off to a running start. But wow, Canada. Wow again. I'm wondering if President Trump will still be so fixated on Canada once the current Prime Minister is gone. Anyway, we tried to take Canada during the Revolutionary War. Couldn't take it then. We invaded again during the War of 1812. That didn't work out the way we wanted either. Even after that, there were a bunch of border skirmishes through the late 1800s. Diplomatic skirmishes lasted into World War I. And here we are at it again. I'm not really complaining. I kind of like the idea of a North American Union. But if we're really going to do it, we have to do it smart. The Canadian citizenry must be on board, or it will never work. We've seen what happens when we take a country that doesn't want to be taken. I just cannot see a majority of Canadians wanting to become Americans. We also need to remember that Canada is hopelessly liberal. If we're not careful, we could end up with an insurmountable Democratic majority in Congress until the end of time. My goodness, it's painful to think about. If we apportion congressional representation in Canada the way we do it in the U.S., we'll have Democratic rule forever. But if we don't, how is that fair to the Canadian people? We would have to truly unite the two peoples. Hearts, minds, political systems, and all that. That old saying, no taxation without representation, comes to mind here. Whole thing might not end the way we think it will. Just saying. Now I'm kinda wondering why the Democrats aren't supporting the heck out of this idea. I don't see where there's a downside for them. Anyway, next. I do like the idea of drilling and fracking and all that good stuff. Drill, baby, drill. Getting new oil out of the ground is great, but we also need to roll back environmental regulations to create new refineries. And do it quick. Sad to say, but President Trump will not be in power forever. The Republicans will not be in power forever. Eventually, the Democrats will put their party back together or brainwash enough people to vote them back in. Either or. You can drill and frack all you want, but you still need refining capacity to process the oil. We haven't had a new refinery in years, and the current refineries aren't getting any newer. We've seen price spikes over the years as they go offline for this reason or that. We need to smooth out those bumps with more capacity. It's very unlikely the Democrats will support new construction when they get back in power. Deporting illegal immigrants. Now, before I start on this one, full disclosure. I'm an American and I've lived overseas for almost 30 years. Just came back a few years ago. Anyway, In all that time, my immigration status was always good to go. Passports, visas, permanent resident permits, work permits, all of it. I have no sympathy if you are here illegally. Have your paperwork together or get thyself gone. Anyway, my concern is not really the deportations. It's about the Democrats' reaction to the deportation officers' attempts to round up illegals. I can easily see the Democrats actively interfering with deportation efforts. Yes, I'm self-censoring for social media here. It could get ugly quickly. The Democrats like to talk about insurrections, and this could become real and really quick. The federal government will have to win whatever happens. Rule of law. If they don't, it will spin out of control as the protesters become bolder. I can't see that ending well for the country. Also, are we going to punish employers who hire illegals? Nice 5- and 6-figure fines would discourage the problem. Might have some labor shortages and some select price increases for a bit as the labor market adjusts. Eventually, a new workforce will replace the illegals. Deporting that many illegals will eventually help with the housing shortage. They're living somewhere now. If they're gone, someone else can live there. Simple. Whole thing will be better for the country in the long term. Okay, last thought here. Why don't we have a national identification card? Yes, I've heard all the arguments over the years, but we have a de facto national identification card now anyway. Today there are federal standards for your state driver's license or identification cards. Have you ever heard of the Real ID Act of 2005? If your card doesn't meet that standard, you'll soon need a passport card, or other Real ID Act compliant identification to do certain things. That list of things is small now, but you and I both know that list will grow over time. Government always takes more power and control, rarely less. Might as well just make a national identification card and get it over with. It would make it real easy to figure out who is here legally. So that's all I have for today. Y'all take care of each other.